The Bermuda Triangle is famous for strange happenings and disappearances in the ocean nestled between Florida and Bermuda. That famous area has a smaller cousin further north, centered around Glastenbury Mountain in the southwestern part of Vermont. This mysterious area is known as the Bennington Triangle. The Bennington Triangle has a history that predates the colonization of North America and persists to this day. It has inspired books and movies, as well as supernatural reports of Bigfoot, UFOs, and interdimensional portals. It's reported that as many as 40 people have vanished under mysterious circumstances in the area. It's stated in Joseph A. Citro's 1996 book, Passing Strange, True Tales of New England Hauntings and Horrors, that Native Americans refuse to set foot on Glastenbury Mountain unless they are burying their dead. They believed that the whole mountain was cursed land because the four winds met there in an eternal struggle. While most refer to this as a myth, there is some truth to it. The wind pattern on Glastenbury Mountain is so erratic that weather changes suddenly and plants grow at odd angles. Reports of strange lights in the sky, sounds with no explanation, and odd odors on the mountain predate colonial settlements. These reports, combined with the many strange disappearances, have led to speculation about UFOs and wormholes in the area. Still, the strangest report may be of the Bennington monster. Thought to be an early Bigfoot or Sasquatch, the monster has been described as well over 6 foot tall, with hair from its head to its toes. The first sighting of the monster was reported in the early 19th century, when it rushed a stagecoach on a washed-out road. The beast knocked the stagecoach onto its side and fled into the dark with a roar. Luckily, no one was harmed. In 1967, a somehow less pleasant monster began to appear on the mountain. The Wild Man of Glastenbury lived in a cave near Somerset. Unfortunately for everyone, he didn't stay there. Reports say that he would descend into nearby Glastenbury and other settlements in the Bennington Triangle to harass women. He accomplished this by pulling open his ratty coat to reveal his nude body while waving around a pistol to scare off anyone who might want to stop him. Luckily, that seems to be all he did before fleeing off back to his cave. There were strange happenings in the Bennington Triangle that were less fantastic than a massive ape-man or gun-wielding nudist as well. The conversion to a tourist town was hard on the loggers and miners of Glastenbury and Fayetteville. In 1892, a sawmill worker, Henry McDowell, drunkenly bludgeoned a coworker to death with a rock after he heard voices telling him to attack. He was committed to an asylum but managed to escape and vanish. Only 5 years after that murder, another strange one followed nearby. John Harbour was a prominent Woodford citizen who went into Bickford Hollow, just south of Glastenbury, to hunt. He was shot by persons unknown, but was found with his fully loaded gun just next to him and seemed to have been dragged several yards. Those who investigated his death were left wondering why he was so easily shot with a fully loaded gun, and why his assailant would bother to put the gun next to him after dragging him. The Bennington Triangle's most enduring unsolved mysteries are the disappearances that plagued the area from 1945 to 1950. In that 5-year span, several people went missing on or near Glastenbury Mountain. The first was a 75-year-old man named Mitty Rivers, who often served as a mountain guide. He was leading a group back to their camp in November 1945 when he got ahead of them just enough to be out of sight. In that short time, he completely vanished. It's unlikely he became lost because he was highly experienced at navigating the mountain. Nonetheless, he was never seen again. Paula Weldon, an 18-year-old college student who had recently taken up hiking, went to explore the mountain in 1946. Weldon was spotted on her way by several people, including drivers who gave her rides and fellow hikers who warned her that she wasn't dressed warmly enough to hike the mountain. Weldon's red coat made her easy to spot, but baffled searchers later couldn't find any sign of her or her brightly colored clothes. Her case became the most famous disappearance, mostly due to the fact that it caused Vermont to found its own state police force. With no police of their own, Vermont had only one state investigator to put on the case. Police from New York and Connecticut were eventually called in by Weldon's father, but she was never recovered. In 1949, 3 hunters went missing on the mountain. That same year, James E. Tedford went missing while on a bus trip from St. Albans to the town of Bennington. In 1950, 8-year-old Paul Jepson went missing from his Bennington home. Police dogs were able to trace his scent to the highway, but no further. He was, coincidentally, wearing a red jacket similar to Paula Weldon's coat. That year would see the last of the disappearances with Frida Langer. She disappeared while hiking with her cousin and friends. Her clothes had gotten wet during a hike, and she went back to camp to change. When the group realized that she never arrived, a massive search was launched. Volunteers, police, firefighters, and the military all joined together the search, but she was never found alive. Only one body was ever recovered from the disappearances on the mountain. Frida Langer's body was found the following May. Search parties had previously heavily combed the field she was found in, leading authorities to speculate that there was foul play. Unfortunately, her body was too decomposed to give any insight into her cause of death. The advanced decomposition only made someone's decision to move her there more mysterious, though. The process would have likely been messy and conspicuous. When newspapers first reported on the Bermuda Triangle phenomena, the explanation was tied into Native American legends. In the 1990s, the explanation shifted to UFOs and other ideas popularized by the X-Files. In the early 2000s, the myth circled back to Bigfoot and the Bennington Monster. In all the research that has been done to answer the maddening questions of the Bennington Triangle, some practical answers have been found. They make sense, even if they aren't entirely satisfying. One explanation is hypothermia. Temperatures on the mountain can drop very low, and the disappearances did all happen in winter. When experiencing hypothermia, people might engage in terminal burrowing. This is a survival behavior that drives people to find somewhere small and remote to huddle. It gets people out of the wind and may provide enough warmth to help slow the process of freezing to death, but it usually kicks in too late and just makes it hard for the person to be found. Another explanation has to do with the area's history as a mining town. The mountainside is littered with unmarked mine shafts that may cause hikers who go off trail to plummet to their deaths. Both of these can explain why the missing people were never found. One more complicating factor is the odd wind pattern on the mountain. Most places have a wind pattern that influences how plants grow. We don't consciously acknowledge it, but this pattern of growth is one of the ways we oriented ourselves when outdoors. Glastenbury Mountain has no consistent wind pattern, so plants grow in odd ways. Many modern hikers have had difficulty navigating the mountain for this reason, and is the basis for the Native American myth about the four winds. Some of these help to explain why the missing people were never found, but there are still loose ends. If the people perished from hypothermia or a fall, why was Langer moved back into the open months later? Maybe the most practical answer is that not all 5 of the Bennington cluster died in the same way. Some may have met with more insidious ends, while others burrowed or fell. But if so, why did the disappearances span only 5 years and stop so abruptly? Whatever your opinion on the Bennington Triangle, I think we can all agree that it's definitely an unnerving mystery.